Hi, welcome back to the Chasing Tone podcast. I'm Travis.
I'm Max.
I'm Brian.
And we're joined today with uber talented Frank Falbo of Falbo Guitars, Falbo Designs. Done some work, a lot of work with Seymour Duncan, 65 amps.
Yep.
Killer guitar player in his own right.
Oh, man.
No, it's for real. Yeah, because I never heard you play until you sat down and played at the LA Amp Show, and I was like, damn it. Another guy better than me. We're in LA. Everybody's better than me.
It's true.
But
It's true.
what a jerk. I love it. I love
That's why
it.
we're friends.
Yeah, that is why. Speaking of which, another reason we're friends, he got me a pedal board for my birthday. Belated, but
It's a couple months late. It shows how
Yeah.
good of a friend I am. I get it on time.
Right? It's after your birthday, which is a month after mine, but whatever.
Sure.
No, but he got me one of the
8 years and a month after yours.
yeah, the Blackbird Mini featherweight boards.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Cool.
really cool. I
Mhm.
probably should have had it sitting here so I could show the camera, but
Yeah.
Google it. It's really cool.
Smells like Band-Aids.
It smells
Smells like-
exactly like Band-Aids.
It's kind of
good.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love Band-Aid smell. Frank hates Band-Aid smell. These are conversations we had before you got here. Band-Aids. But speaking of conversations,
And Band-Aids.
I kind of want to talk about your guitars because, acoustic guitars are something I'm not real familiar with. Well, so it makes sense. I had to have somebody explain it because, what I mean is like a lot of times you get what you pay for. That's true with anything. But with acoustic guitars, I think a lot of electric guitar players see them as way expensive. But if you buy the right one, I mean, you're not buying effects. You're not buying an amp.
Right.
All of your money needs to go into your guitar tone, and that's all in your guitar.
Right.
And is that something that you fight a lot with consumers, especially coming from like the electric guitar world?
I think that people, the marketplace has done its job for me. They've, done a good job of telling the consumer how much good things cost and how much
Right.
cheap things cost and what the delta is between those two things.
Right.
Those lines get blurred a little bit when you have a company that makes guitars here in the United States, but then they also have crossover guitars that are made in Mexico or
Right.
somewhere else, and everybody kind of blurs the lines. But my guitars are made here in the U.S. and they're all between about $3,000 and $4,000.
Right.
And that's just what they cost. When I tell people what I'm making and what's on them and those kinds of things, that people don't really seem to have an issue with it. Maybe they can't afford one yet, or they have to sell some things before
Right.
they can afford it. But you're absolutely right. I mean, it's the strings. It's your acoustic guitar is everything. Right. It's its amp.
Everything.
It's the cable.
Yeah.
It's the everything. Everything we talk about in the signal path.
Yeah.
Here.
And that's what
It's
I
is
on the
self-contained, right?
Yeah, 'cause
right. The bracing is
Right.
the cable.
and I want to talk about that
everything.
real quick.
Yeah,
Frank is one of these guys, and I'm not just blowing smoke because I've done the research. I've talked to you about it, but but no, a lot of guys kind of base their bracing off of stuff that's already done, right? And I'm not going to give any names, but I'll give some names. Like for instance, Martin. People are making Martin
Right.
clones all over the place.
right.
You
And all
actually-
Martin's doing is copying old Martins.
Right, well, if it ain't broke,
Cloning themselves.
if it ain't broke, right?
No, they are kind of innovative. They've made a lot of changes.
Oh, have
recently,
they?
But yeah,
See, shows
But,
what I know. But I know that, like,
but their big sellers are also copies of
D28s,
old Martins.
yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
but, you actually do your own kind of unique bracing. And from what I get, I'll let you explain it, but you actually use the tension that's naturally there,
right.
right? Can you explain that?
Yeah, there's about 170 pounds of string tension pulling up on that guitar top.
Okay.
And it's basically just trying to rip the thing apart. You have around 1/8 of an inch thin piece of spruce on the top, and so all the bracing is in there to try to stop that from happening. And so the bracing is trying to resist this force that's being put on the top. And so you basically have two 200-pound gorillas, both each on one side of the teeter-totter, and most of the times this one wins, and the top begins to pull forward, and the bridge maybe comes loose or whatever, and those things start to pull
I've
up.
even seen the little bubbles behind the bridge.
Totally, yeah, totally. And so when I sat down to think about it was a long time ago now, I'm thinking, well, I've got 175 pounds of string tension. What can I do with that positively?
Right.
Why can't I just harness that to undo the same things that, you know, the destruction that it's causing? Right. So this would be more along the lines of moving the 200-pound gorilla to the center of the teeter-totter.
Just to let them go. Yeah.
And it's like, okay, now everything's balanced. Everything's brought into tune, you know?
Right.
And so now the top, you know, instead of torquing forward, I'm bringing the strings in underneath and putting negative torque, you know, in there. So I'm torque balanced. Now behind the bridge, I don't have any braces at all. I don't have those 1 or 2 transverse tone bars that go across because I don't need them because I'm not placing that vector on the top. So now the whole thing is louder. It's more resonant.
Well, that's
it's like,
what I was going to say.
Yeah, it's all the things that, you know, it's the goes to 11 of all the things that we like on acoustic guitars, all the things that you EQ into the Martin style guitar when you record it, all the, you know, you tighten the bass up, but you know, you do this, you do that, and you do all these things to massage it so that the guitar we're really hearing on tracks, it may be, you know, a vintage style guitar, but it's
been tuned.
Yeah, it's put the ear candy into it. Right. All right. And so this is coming straight off the guitar that way. It's coming off in phase. So instead of vibrating like this, where the, you know, when this part of the guitar is up, this part's down, you know, it's actually all humming and purring in phase.
Yeah, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but common sense tells you the more bracing you have on the underside of the top, the less it's going to vibrate.
Right.
You know, so
bracing is a dampener. That's
exactly.
That's all there is to it.
Yeah, but it's just cool to kind of know that somebody out there is still trying to do something, or is doing something different with the acoustic guitar, which has been around forever.
Yeah, I'm not that smart. I can't believe nobody's come up with this before I did. But, you know, but the fact is they didn't. And so I'm lucky enough to be sitting here with you today with a company that's based around, you know, cracking the code.
Yeah.
Right?
And by the way, I just got to say, you have to check out his parlor. I've never heard a bigger parlor, man. It's a tiny guitar. Well, it's a parlor size, not, you know, but it sounds huge.
Spoiler alert. It's a parlor size.
Yeah, spoiler. It's a parlor. But, you know, so no, that's cool. And you've also done, let's take it back into the pedal world.
Yeah.
You've done a lot of work for Seymour Duncan, and then more recently 65 amps, right?
Yeah. I mean, when I got to Seymour Duncan, most of the pedals that they had, you know, out were already designed. But there was a couple that I had the chance to, you know, to design and influence and, you know, be a part of. And of course, there's a bigger engineering team there. So the product that comes out the door is a byproduct of the collective.
Right.
But yeah, there was a few pedals at the end there, at the end of that run, that, you know, that I came up with.
Yeah, that's cool.
People seemed to like those. You know?
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
But okay, well, I mean, sorry to put you on the spot, but
no,
like I said, and I'm gonna bring up another one that I forgot. The what's it called? The Fishman.
Yes.
The Fluence, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So with pickups, I did a lot of stuff, obviously, with pickups when I was at Seymour Duncan. I invented the P-Rails before I got there, and
really?
actually,
I didn't know that.
yeah,
awesome,
that's why I began discussing. That's why I started talking to Seymour Duncan in the first place. But so yeah, I did a lot of that stuff, and then after I left, there was this new technology, and that I was made aware of, and I instantly knew what to do with it. I knew what could be done with it, you know. And it's funny, a technology company that doesn't really play in our space, they say, here's this technology that we have, and there's some samarium cobalt magnets on it, and look, now it's a pickup, you know. And you play it and you're like, okay, you know.
Yeah, technically it's a pickup.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, white box, black lettering, pickup, you know, guitar pickup, right? So it produced sound, but of the sound that I heard, like for example, the individual coils themselves, the resonant peak frequency was 80 kilohertz. Okay, so that's beyond everything, right?
Okay.
That's light waves.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's a little high to hear.
Yeah, it's a little high.
Yeah, because we can hear 20K.
We can hear 20. We can sense up to 25, something like that. So even if you're
20 to
deaf,
20K.
even if you're deaf at 10 kilohertz and above, our bodies sense it in other ways. So.
So basically, you can use it to create a mass weapon.
Dog whistle.
Right. Yeah. That's what we did, Brian. It's a tone weapon. We are taking over the world. Yeah. No. So I'm like, I know what can be done with this, and we need the right people, right tech company. You know, Fishman's very innovative. They're very forward thinking. They're unafraid. And talked to Larry. You know, I said, if I've got something, are you in? You know,
right?
And he's like, yes.
And of course, you carried clout to get there, which is cool.
Yeah, you can trust me if I'm telling you something's good, right? So they have a great R&D team, and you know, in flying out there periodically, you know, we've been able to bring these things to life. And for those of you who don't know, it's instead of wire winding a coil up and down, where, and some of this language, this techie language crosses over into the pedal world because we're talking about impedances and things like that, and capacitors and things. So when you wind a coil up and down like that, the traditional way, there's a lot of distributed capacitance that's built up in it. That's how we get these resonant peaks, but these resonant peaks also come at the expense of loading. So resistive loading is sort of it's a drag. You know, it's a drag on on slew rate. You know, it has to do with like a sense of immediacy, and these are all things that. Yeah, you're right. These are all things that play in the time constant domain. You'd never sense it because it has nothing to do with latency, but it has to do with phase linearity and phase alignment. So the Fishman coil, the Fluence core, it's like a 48-layer PCB. Each layer like super thin. Like for those of you who don't know, a pedal is made with a 2-layer or a 4-layer board, maybe up to 8 for some complicated.
If it's super complicated.
Yeah, if somebody's trying to make a super complicated, you know, maybe digital pedal in a super small format, right? You know, maybe there's
Mesa did that, didn't they?
8 layers in there.
Mesa had like a bunch of layers in some of their smaller boxes. Remember they put out those pedals?
Possible. It's possible. Yeah, you really kind of got to know how to look at it to see how dense it is, because you really don't see past the ground plane.
Like an inch and a half thick or anything. It's just
right.
It's just a bunch of layers that are much.
Oh, I see what you mean. Oh, okay. I actually
meant, that pedal is that tall.
Well, no, I know that. I know that they just put multiple boards in. So I'm talking about something completely different.
Yes. So check this out. So he's thinking like, well, there's a pedal and it has like 2 circuit boards in it, a top one and a bottom one, so they can populate both sides with components. Right. So no, this is where the circuit board itself is created with like, you know, Listerine breath strip, like saran wrap size, like thin wafer, and then on each layer it's a laminate, right? So each layer has its own coil on it. So the coil is made from top to bottom.
Interesting.
And it's all linear, right?
That's why it sounds good.
Well, so everything is phase aligned. Like when someone tells you, I play this wacky chord with dissonance, but now I can hear all the notes in the chord. Right? A lot of times that's a byproduct of phase linearity, because if
there's note separation.
Yeah, when we don't sense, and it's actually even really hard for testing devices to even see this stuff, because it's down to like, you know, whatever. You know what I mean? It's a fly on the butt of the gnat that's on the horse that's in a car that's in an airplane that's on the world. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's how small that is by comparison to the things we normally look at, like frequency response and things like that. But, you know, basically when you cut it down to it, it's like there's a latency or a delay in the amount of time it takes for like the treble frequencies to rise and get through, as opposed to mid-range or bass frequencies.
And this is something you probably understand a lot more than say Max and I, because you have to deal with that too. Like you were saying, it crosses over into the pedal world.
It's kind of like the BBE made a sonic maximizer. That kind of tried to push those, align those frequencies.
Right, they tried to realign them after the fact, which doesn't help you going into gain, right? So if I'm playing into overdrive, you know, a high gain circuit, even a low mid gain, but it's like when I do that, I'm distorting the signal, right? So everything becomes a harmonic multiple, and then those slight little phase, you know, irregularities now begin to like obfuscate the development of harmonic content and throw things out of alignment. And none of that stuff has to do with like, oh, I want my PAF to sound like a great PAF, so I have to get one that was wound in 1959. Right. It's like, yes, but I can get you there. Like, let me put it this way. What we end up coming out with is better in the ways that are universally better. it's not a thing where someone, like there's things that are kind of always better. A fresher set of strings is kind of always better than an old one that's got bacon grease on it.
Telecaster, always better.
Now, sometimes people like an old set of strings for an effect. So there's some Nashville guys that play Gibson acoustics with dead strings on purpose because that's that downhole biscuit and gravy kind of sound.
We call them B's and G's around here.
Yeah. So, but for the most part, there are these universal things, and that's part of what it is. So with these pickups, I can target the ideal, like the most perfect PAF sound, not the one from Thursday, but the one from Wednesday,
Right.
And the one that's aged this way, but not the one that aged that way. And this one's like too aged, and I can park it right there and give you that sound at whatever gain range I want. So it's got characteristics of an underwound PAF, but it's at the normal PAF volume, that I calibrated, right?
And being that it's PCB, one would think, like I said, common sense, that the consistency is going to be there from pickup to pickup.
Nuts on.
See, that's cool.
Dead on.
Because that's one thing I've always wondered is if you're using these pickup winding machines, they just basically go by impedance, right? And then
they don't actually go by turn count. The impedance is a byproduct, but you can use impedance to determine whether or not you have something that may be out of spec. But no, it's wound to the turn count for the most part. There are some pickup winders
that can be all over the place then.
Right. So you just have basically when you're winding a traditional guitar pickup, you have all these different metrics. You can read inductance and things like that. But basically, you have all these different metrics to try to just make sure that you're close enough to being within a range, and that range is about that big. I mean, we've all bought pickups and then bought the same pickup again, and it's still good, but this one's better.
And that's what I was getting ready to say. That's got to drive you. Could you imagine, Brian, selling a Wampler pedal?
No, I can't.
No.
Yeah.
But,
I'm still shocked by it.
Yeah, I'm still shocked by it. But no, and then having somebody be like, man, I bought this one. The one I bought 6 months ago, exact same pedal, but it sounds better than this one.
Yeah.
Right.
Wouldn't that drive you nuts as a manufacturer, as a creator?
Well,
right.
And that happens with some cheaper pedals.
Right. But what I'm saying is, could you imagine doing that in your line? No, there's no way.
Right.
So
if you were a pickup maker, that's part of your reality.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
So
if you're a pickup winder,
drive versions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10.
Right.
Because
you can either do it that way. You can be a pickup winder that has a bazillion different models, and they're all one little tiny bit against, versus one another.
Right.
But in that case, you're still almost like you're doing what they do with potentiometers. You're making them all and then post-sorting them. You know what I mean? When you're done with the PAF, then you sort them all and you have 1 through 10.
Right.
But yeah, it's extremely variable. There's tension on that wire as it's being wound. I mean, there's so much, so many things that can change and be different. But and then the time constant is if the same pickup 8 years from now can sound different. It's primarily due to the magnetism, but there are other things that come into play that can make that thing sound different. So when it comes to pedals and electronic circuitry design, it's like, well, there's ways you can mitigate that. You can use tight tolerance parts. You can have, a good clean board layout. You know what I'm saying? So that as part, but there's always part drift.
Tolerance, right.
Yeah, I mean, if every one of the parts, right, it's feasible. Let's put it like this, so that we're not telling people like, something that isn't true about two of the same items, but it's feasible that in some weird world, if every single part that was used in a plextortion was at the highest range of its tolerance,
and then the other one was,
and the other one, every single part was at the lowest range of its tolerance, those two pedals could sound a little bit different. But in most cases, it's a matter of like going to the drive knob and just getting that to where the two things sound the same.
And some of those tolerances are why, like, there's some really good sounding 808s and some decent sounding 808s. And I mean, you can buy some of the old vintage tube screamers that sound like poo.
Right.
Some that sound great.
Right.
And the same thing with ones now. Some sound great. Some sound
So I got a question about your process. I know a little bit about it. Basically, for those who don't know, Brian will get, and correct me if I'm wrong, but basically, a part like a J-Fat.
Mm-hmm.
And you will test them to make sure they fall within your specific tolerance.
Mm-hmm.
So like, let's say the manufacturer says, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the manufacturer says that a J-Fat has a tolerance of 10 one way or the other.
Sure.
Okay. Now, will you go by that, or will you say, well, I want my tolerance to be 5 because I found that better in the circuit? Does that make sense?
Yeah, we would tend to say that, it has to be a 3.
Okay, so you go by what you've determined works
Right.
best. That's cool, man, but you got to waste a crap ton of money.
Yeah, I mean, there's ways around it, though.
Yeah.
I mean, we're coming up with ways around that problem.
Right.
Cool.
So-
That basically you're talking about sorting at that point.
Exactly. That's
So-
exactly what I'm talking about.
So there's 2 ways to do it. You can sort, or you can then put something else into the circuit so that instead of sorting, which whatever that value is, you've now calibrated it.
Right.
Right. And so there's a calibration process or there's a sorting process. In the sorting process, you might say, well, all of these are technically a fail for this part, for this pedal. Those are
But
a
they can
pass.
be used for that.
Right.
Right.
That's a pass for this pedal, because,
Yeah.
and that's what people I think don't realize. This is where I'm going to interject into your, podcast, what I'd like to tell the public. This is my chance. No,
This is my stage now.
yeah, people don't realize what goes into making these pedals to the point where even if somebody were to tell you, I have cloned
Right.
this thing, everything about this is a dead nuts clone.
Because the data sheet from Mauser said so.
Totally. And you're like, really? Okay, great. Did you this, then this? And so there's a lot of secrets that I'm sticking up for guys like Brian in that there's even secrets you're not going to even hear. You're not going to know they are secrets.
Right.
It's like there's what we know, what we don't know, and then there's what we don't know that we don't know.
Right.
And that's where I feel like you can trust guys like Brian, you know what I mean, where you're like, this pedal is supposed to be this, and I know that he got there in a way that it maintains integrity, and is not
consistency.
It's inconsistency, exactly.
And like
so
you said,
my air hat off to you.
and it's like you said too. The market's doing a good job of educating people for that. As far as your pedals are $200, but it's so worth it. And every manufacturer that's pretty much doing it, But
Right. All the higher end pedal guys.
right? And I'm like, not trying to just say only Wamplers, but you get what you pay for, and what you get out of that $200 isn't somebody saying, send this schematic to this factory in China and order 500 of them.
Right.
And it's like, that
send,
really
send
happens.
the pallet to me.
Yeah, I don't know
sell
if people realize
Right.
that really happens.
That happens a lot.
I know a company, and I'm definitely not going to mention the name, but what they actually do is they send a schematic to a factory in China. They don't even get one back to test
No,
it.
there's
They
no
just say-
testing it to see if it sounds
We
good.
just say, we want 500 of these, make them.
Right.
And then they send them over.
Right.
And they never play them. They just sell them
Right.
to you.
And what
Right.
I don't think it's even important to them. I'm guessing.
No, it's not.
It's not important to the fact that maybe that factory found a different type of capacitor with a looser
Oh, they
tolerance.
don't care.
They
Yeah.
saved a cent on.
Yeah.
And so they're like, substitute. You
Right.
make
Of
more
course.
money.
Without naming names, I can tell you that it was a battle fought in my past somewhere, in the names of the companies that are listed on my resume.
Okay.
To say what the heck, you can't. There's a part substitution.
Right.
We didn't. That's not the op
We
amp
didn't okay
spec.
this, right.
That's not the one. Right. That is not the transformer that we told them that they could use. But it's the same. No, it's not the same.
Right.
First rule of parenting, because I said so, right? It's not the same because that's not what I said, and it's not your job to decide whether or not it's the same.
Right.
But
Right.
second of all, guess what? It really isn't the same because we did try all 5 of them.
Right.
And we found that under this and this and this and this circumstance, that sounds different.
And to take that into something, tangible, I can go back with my personal experience with the Clarksdale. Had we used, I don't want to give up too much info, but we tried 10 different,
A chip. Right.
10 different chips.
Right.
And we went with a specific one, not because the old vintage one says to use this one.
Right.
If
it
that's
wasn't a
the-
4558.
Okay, I didn't want to
Right.
come out and say
Yeah.
that.
No, you can see that if you open the pedal.
Well, right.
Yeah, I don't like sand. components.
Right, but at the same time,
I mean,
right.
That's
I don't know if I have that liberty, so I didn't even go close to that.
Good for you. Yeah.
But we used the one that we said that sounds
like it.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, Max, shut up.
I know, right? Yeah. I'm still kind of scared from Frank's dad's voice. Throw the dad voice and the finger pointing, and immediately I was like, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I'll turn the lights off next time.
But who hurt you?
Dude, my ignorance, I didn't know that you invented the P-Rail.
Yes.
That's awesome, man. You're famous. No, those things are great because I'll be honest. I go to this shop in Plainfield, Indiana, called Six Strings Down, and the guy, he's old school. Like, I think the only new thing he carries is pedals.
Yeah.
And he got a guitar in. It was an old SG, and somebody put P-Rails in it. And I was like, oh, what a shame, you know? It's a 71 SG, and they put these in it.
Yeah, hacked it up. Yeah.
Right. And he was like, dude, play it.
Plug it in.
Plug it in. And, you know, trusting this guy. I mean, I trust anything Dave says.
Oh, yeah.
Because the guy is just, he's seen it all. He's seen 58 Les Pauls,
right,
56 Strats.
Right, that's his gig. He deals in that stuff.
Yeah, that's what he does. And he was like, just play them. And I played them, man, and he was like giving me the tour.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's a little intimidating if you've never played them. But you're right, dude. They get everything. Mm. It's stupid awesome. No, they really are. So, yeah, because I'm a skeptic when it comes to that stuff. But,
yeah,
you know, that, and I'm a creature of habit. It's like, why change it? Mm-hmm. But, so, man, I'm sorry to, you know, put you on the spot and make this whole thing about you, but you've been around the block, you've done a lot of stuff, and you have hands in so many different products in this industry. You know, pickups, and you do an electric guitar too.
Right.
Which I played the prototype, and it had those pickups in it.
It has the new Fishman Fluence pickups.
Yeah.
I have it right over there.
Yeah.
Do you really?
When the podcast is over.
Oh, well, no, we should have. I'm about tempted to go over there and grab it. You know, although
then who's going to talk?
You don't need to talk. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. It's not live. We can just edit it.
Yeah, we can just stop.
We have the technology.
Go get it.
This is awesome.
No, we should. Should I go get it?
Sure.
I'll be right back.
All right.
I'm going to get the case, though, because
This commercial brought to you by Ovaltine. Drink your Ovaltine, kids.
Yeah, why don't they call it Roundtine? Just open it. You don't have to bring the case. Come on. Just open it. Yes.
That's the one. Didn't you, like, cut it, like, the wood down with, like, a chainsaw and everything?
Yes.
Like, it used to be alive, and now it's a work of art.
So you killed a tree for this guitar.
Frank walked into the forest, found the best tree, murdered it, and then planked it down piece by piece to give you tone. Frank's not above killing things as long as it sounds good.
Right.
Like chubby co-host next
That's
song.
the takeaway. Don't screw with Frank when it comes to guitar tone. He will kill you.
Okay, so now you can see why I'm not touching it.
Sound good. I will murder you.
I'll make your skull.
Yeah. So that's it.
Microphone.
Yeah. Don't forget your mic.
Yeah.
Okay. But no, the thing's incredible. Now, I noticed it has the same. Forgive my ignorance,
yes,
but string through.
Yes. Yeah. So I don't have an acoustic with me here, but if this had been an acoustic guitar, the way I'm bringing the strings in, I'm actually pulling down behind the bridge to level off that torque. Okay. So the acoustic guitar's top is flexible, and therefore I'm kind of diving boarding it right through the bridge plate and all these other secrets. And what I did on the Hollowbody electric is it's completely hollow, so there's no braces or anything like that even. It's just all carved out front to back. It's not connected to the back. Some people are like, oh, here's this totally hollow guitar with a block in the center
and that's
that
why
connects the top to the back. And that's a choke. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just like...
And that's why I asked you this before we started. I said, are Hollowbody electrics, are they braced?
Right. And so so a lot of them do have braces in them. I don't because of the way I carved the top. But in those cases, like in a jazz box, there's braces in it, but it's not attached to the back, so it is more floating, and obviously they feed back a lot when you plug them in. But so in this case, instead of having the top flex, this top's made of maple. It's a little stiffer, of course, than an acoustic guitar top. Mm-hmm. And so now it's the piece inside that I have doing the flexing. So with the string tension, as the strings are, as there's tension on the strings, I'm actually coming and pushing up underneath the Tune-o-matic.
Okay.
So it's really loud and resonant and lively. Mm-hmm. All the stuff, to 11, going to 11 about any semi-hollow guitar that you've ever played. It's all those things magnified, but then at the same time it doesn't want to feed back because the string energy is actually clamping and controlling the top. Now it feeds back like crazy if I hold a note, if it were playing, right?
In
the Spinal Tap,
but it feeds back in pitch. So is that feedback or sustain? You can really take it how you want.
It's a biofeedback loop between the strings and the guitar top.
Right.
It's going woo, right? Yeah. And then when I stop the strings, it stops.
Right.
It's not, the top itself isn't howling. And of course, everything does if you turn the amp loud enough.
You know what I
mean?
Just kind of like Spinal Tap said. You can set the guitar down.
It totally is. Yeah, you can. So it does get it, but it goes into infinite feedback and harmonics and stuff. Mm-hmm. Just by the way you kind of squeeze and bend the string and stuff like that. But
I know we played it through that 2-Rock in L.A.
Is that killer?
Oh yeah.
And I had a toner.
Right.
A toner.
Tone boner.
I get
it. Not ink.
not ink.
Hashtag toner.
Hashtag toner. Come on. But okay, I'm probably gonna get in trouble from somebody. Somebody's gonna be like, "That's rude."
Yeah,
that's just not
me in about 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be the guy typing it in. Like, I was very offended by it.
That's why we ended.
Yeah, I was sitting right there, and I was extremely upset.
But no,
please.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just complaining about you. Yeah,
I'm riffing. I'm just riffing. So no, check out. Sorry, I totally made Frank monopolize it. So that's my
fault.
No, it's nothing to be real. This is
what we do.
Podcast.
It really was.
This might be the first completely on topic podcast we've ever done.
And I learned a ton.
Let's fix that.
Yeah.
Right.
So, what was your weekend?
Not.
Yeah. What's Texoba?
What did you eat today?
What is that? What's Texoba mean?
It's this great Mexican place I like to eat at.
It's Texas badass right there.
Yeah, it's Texas badass. No. The Texas Blues Alley. But
yeah.
So yep. Good old Stevie.
Yeah, I know he loves it when you call him Stevie. I can tell.
Stevie Stoffer.
Yeah, but okay. So yeah, check out. It's just FalboGuitars.com, right?
Yeah, Falbo Guitars.
Yeah. Check out FalboGuitars.com. That's so cool that you've done so much, and these guitars, man, I can't say enough about them.
We appreciate you giving the guitar to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I would if I were you too. And I was getting the guitar.
Yeah, he's like, they're pretty nice. I'd appreciate it.
That's great. Yeah.
But also, leave us a review on iTunes. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram, Chasing Tone Podcast. Max, thank you so much for your contribution.
You're welcome.
Check us out on Craigslist.
Yeah, check us out on Craigslist. But leave a comment in the YouTube video or
don't.
Yeah, or don't.
Right.
Especially if it's constructive.
Right. Yeah.
But so yeah, man. Thanks, Frank.
I'm wondering if we're gonna get comments like, "Oh my gosh, why didn't you guys go off topic at any point?"
Yeah. Or they're gonna be like, "Why doesn't Frank do every episode?"
Well, there's 2,000 miles.
Yeah.
Shut up, guys. Let Frank talk.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you can fly
I'm 2,000 miles away. That's the biggest reason.
Once a week,
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Frank Falbo, Max Jeffrey, Brian Wampler. I'm Travis. Thank you guys so much for listening.